There we go. We're on. We're live. It's just gone 12:30 on Friday. Good Friday. Thank you, Craig Bigelow, for joining me. We weren't sure if we were going to do this today. We went a bit of backwards and forwards. We weren't sure if we should do it on a Good Friday.
But we're here, mate. Happy Easter.
We're here. Happy Easter to you too. We figured it's just because it's a public holiday, it's probably no different to any other day at the moment. Isolation and work from home and all of that kind of stuff.
I've been saying that a little bit. I feel a little bit like Bill Murray in Groundhog Day a little bit. Definitely over and over. And I'm still at the point where I'm early days in the groundhog. I think he went from serving himself to serving others. I think it's a bit of a challenge to see how you do things differently. Yeah,
I've got my phone going here. You can't get any interaction back through StreamYard that we're using. There's actually a few people starting to tune in and watch, which is surprising. Cool. I wasn't sure if it would just be us talking to ourselves or if anyone would be watching. So thank you for the few people that have started to tune in and join us. I guess as we'll get to what do you actually do in a few minutes, but where are you? How are you coping? Have you had lunch? I just did. I scuffed down.
I heard. No,
where
I haven't.
Are you?
I'm in the office at home in Melbourne. So as of probably 3 weeks ago, I think we made the decision that working from home where you could made sense. Typically, I'm in the office in Hawthorn rather. But the first thing was, got a remote team, so we've got a couple in the Philippines, remote in Queensland as well, and another one down another part of Melbourne. And then I manage another team in the Philippines. So it was just getting everybody else home. So that was good. We did that pretty early. We lost about 4 days, I think, getting them set up from home. So taking their actual computer, doing that sort of thing. But it was handled really well. But we just decided from a safety perspective, because they travel in they ride these buses called jibneys. I don't know if you're familiar with it too much, but it's pretty close quarters. There's about 30 or 40 of them on a bus that come in for up to sort of 2 hours potentially each way. So I just asked Sam, who's been with me for just over 2 years, said, where would you rather be? She's like, at home. I'm like, let's just do it. And so we got her on the first bus out of the office, got her set up at home, and it's been great. So, we had a little bit of downtime, but now feel much more comfortable that they're there and they're in the place they want to be too. So
that's the team in the Philippines you're talking about.
Yeah.
So there's a Graham. There's a guy that's been tuning in from the Philippines to watch these videos each day.
Right.
He sent me some photos. He's on one of the islands by the looks of things, and he sent some photos to say this is where I'd normally be at some kind of beach bar and. Quite a nice spot to be spending this isolation, I would have thought.
Yeah, it was interesting because initially there was not my team's in Cebu, and there wasn't any cases of COVID in Cebu, and it turned out they had no testing kits. So it was a good way to have no cases is to not test. But so we went off the size of Manila being the same sort of size population and just looked at the cases there, and then eventually the testing kits got across and made a bit of a difference.
Yeah. So, given the long weekend, where would you have otherwise been? Other than would you have typically Easter long weekend? Would you have been at home? Would you normally go somewhere? What would you?
Yeah, we'd typically be at home, but maybe just popping down to the beach for a little bit. So either taking the dog down for that, having a bit of a surf, and doing that sort of thing. But Easter's always a good opportunity. I think April's a great month for public holidays, so you tend to get a few in a row. So it's just nice to have that little bit extra time as well. But but typicly, at home. How about you, mate? Are you normally around?
We would normally have gone down to Lawn. So the last couple of years, we've gone to. We always managed to find ourselves for the last few years going down to Lawn on Good Friday because everything around here was closed, and so you could at least go and get a burger and stuff and just hang out down there. We started just going down there on a Good Friday, and also go down there on Boxing Day, the same thing, because everything around here was just closed and for something to do. And then the last couple of years we've stayed down there for a few nights, just in one of the hotels. So we had that booked. Gabby, my wife, lined up her roster to have 3 days off in a row. We were supposed to be going down there, but that's been cancelled like everything else at the moment.
They've all been pretty good though, haven't they, in terms of refunds and that sort of stuff? Did you find that as well?
Yeah, so we were staying at a Mantra hotel.
Yep.
I think we had to pay a $200 deposit, but we've just moved it to another point later in the year. So we've just moved it to a weekend in October. Hopefully by then we can get down. We also had a couple of airfares booked to go to Port Douglas in early June. So we're going up with Jetstar and back with Virgin, maybe, or the other way around. But they've been really good too in organising refunds. So the Jetstar one came back really quickly. They just gave us a credit, which we've since already spent on a different airfare to the Gold Coast later in the year. So that's worked out well for Jetstar. The Virgin one hasn't come through yet, but they said when we put through the claim, they said it might take up to 3 weeks for it to come back.
Okay.
No mad rush. It's not like we can use it anyway. So
exactly
when it comes, it comes. So, Craig, I guess let maybe turn to the kind of the work that you do, the team and the remote. And I was chatting to someone on one of these lives just the other day who was talking about bots and those kind of things. You've built a bot for your business, but maybe we'll start with the type of work that you do. We're in similar kind of fields, although you're a bit specialised in one area than I am. Maybe we'll start there.
Yeah, sure. So I've always loved the insurance part of it. As far as this, I've been planning for about, it's close to 16 years. It sounds like a really long time. I went straight from uni. I was full-time uni and full-time work in planning. Yeah. So it's been a long journey, but the risk has always been something I've really, really enjoyed, the insurance. And so really took a path to just do the insurance about 4 years ago. And since then I've moved away from the traditional referral path. So worked a lot with Mark Davis, a mortgage broker, who was really great in supporting me when I was first starting out. But I just got to the point where I couldn't support him back the way that he was supporting me. And I just felt that if I was to have a sustainable way, that I wanted to be able to get and generate my own leads online. So I focused heavily on that. And as you mentioned, built a messenger bot, because I was finding that the gap between when people first inquired about insurance to actually being in a position to take action was quite a long one. And instead of having to do that manually and follow up and hassle, I guess, which wasn't an enjoyable part of the job, I wanted to give people something up front. And so I've built a series of questions online, if you like, that replicates an interaction. And at the end, you get a personalized summary of how much insurance you should need based on the responses that you give. So that's been really, really effective in terms of giving people a bit of direction as to what they need up front. And then when they're ready, if it's what they want to do, then we can look at that personalization a bit further, because obviously there's some limitations from that online calculator.
And so when you first launched it, I went in there and put my number. I think a lot of other financial advisors in the country did too, and probably bombarded you initially. Has that slowed down now? Is it more like genuine inquiry that's coming through there? Yeah,
look, I still get the odd planner that comes through, and I record a personal video for them as well. So if it's an advisor, I just sort of send a message and say, hey mate, are you checking this out just to have a look at it? If you have any questions, let me know. Otherwise, I'm not going to bombard you with my follow-up emails and that sort of thing, and a personalized message if it's just to test it out. So I think that's, it's perfectly normal. I've got no issue with having people go through it. At the end of the day, I could tell them exactly what I do. I just think there's very few people that will actually do it as well. So nothing's a secret, right? People say protecting IP and that sort of thing, but if I come and have a meeting with you, mate, I know exactly what you do. So at the end of the day, I think we live in an age now where you can find whatever you want on the internet. So I have absolutely no problem with that, but it's just that obviously I want to try and narrow down for who's actually after help and who's just trying to test it out. So,
but that's like everything, isn't it? You can, you can read all the marketing books, or all of this or all of that, and it's like, in the past it was, don't possibly give away your secrets because someone's going to copy you, or they're going to. But it just doesn't happen, and it's been proven time and time again that give it all away for free. That's fine. You're only going to get a small percentage of the population that's actually going to replicate or copy what you've done. You're better off just putting it all out there and and letting it all come back to you.
Yeah, and I find about 25% of the people that go through and get the report actually have a phone call with me, and of that, about probably two out of those, 2 in 4, about 50% of those are the right people that we work with. So but hopefully the ones that even do it get some benefit from what they're doing, whether it's just a confirmation they're in the right spot, they've got the right things, or they weren't ever going to be the type of person that wants help from someone like me, which is perfectly fine. And there's heaps of options on how to do it. You've got your noble oaks that are direct without commission. You've got your life broker sort of stuff, and then you've got an advisor. So I think it's just not trying to be the fit for everybody, which works.
Yeah, you can't. It's Seth Godin in his idea of the smallest. What's he say? Smallest viable market is a lot of what he talks about, which you're playing in well. There's a couple of comments and things and questions coming through on the live stream there, which is good. I'll get to those in a sec. But I wanted to spend a little bit of time just talking about the current environment that we're kind of going through now. I've had a couple of chats with some mortgage brokers, and they've been really informative on how things are changing in the lending landscape in terms of occupations and things that people are struggling to borrow money for, and a few other bits and pieces. But you're a whole lot closer to the day-to-day of what's going on in the insurance space. Can you share a bit of what's happening there with all of COVID-19 that's going on?
Yeah, obviously I'll talk to it from an insurance perspective. I'm not a medical expert by any means. So
I'm in the insurance, and the underwriting aspects of it.
So I think I've been really positively surprised by, and I love tech, right? I'm a massive tech nerd when it comes to that, and I've been really, really positively surprised by a lot of the insurers where, the old days where we first started out, it was paper applications, and for them to have to reprint, add questions and do that sort of thing to a paper application just wouldn't happen. So I think it was about 3 weeks ago, I did an application with MLC, who'd already updated their online questionnaires, and a lot of the others have now followed suit to add in a couple of extra questions around risk factors, I guess. Have you traveled? Have you had flu-like symptoms? Have you been quarantined? That sort of stuff. And by and large, I think that the questions that are being asked now are fair, if that makes sense. So they're just trying to assess your risk. They're not penalising people for potential risk. They're more just looking for actual risk, and that's all you can really ask. So I know that I saw your interview with Dan. The insurance companies are doing a similar thing for if income's changed, depending on the industry. That's also having an effect. And I know Chris Bates put a post the other day where it was, 2 days before settlement, they wanted to check your income at that time. So it's really just, they're assessing it on a case-by-case basis to see, is the impact on your income at the moment temporary, or is this how it's going to be? And they'll make an assessment based on that. So by and large, like I said, I think they've been relatively fair in terms of what's going on, because realistically, we just don't know how long this is going to go, what the long-term effects would be, and that sort of thing too.
Yeah. One of the other advisors in our business, and I had a policy that's just gone in force too in the last week or so, but one of the other advisors is doing a fair bit of work with kind of specialists and surgeons and those kind of things, a lot of medico types, and it's interesting to kind of get the feedback from her in that it almost seems like the talk that's going through that kind of medical field that some have tried to just coincidentally in the last little while have tried to increase their income protection or other bits and pieces, and are getting exclusions and things coming on, and then all of a sudden this advisor will be talking to someone else and they're saying, oh no, I don't want to go anywhere, don't want to have anything to do with that particular insurance company. It's interesting to see these particular industries and particular occupations, that how quickly the news of this positive or negative underwriting outcomes are actually flowing through these industries. It's quite interesting to see at the moment. It
is, and I guess the thing is that none of the insurance companies want to be different to the others. And when you do something different, it sort of stands out. And what I think the beauty of the time that we live in at the moment is everything is so public. So when something happens and it doesn't seem reasonable, it often gets changed. So I just feel that the decisions that are being made are quite fair in the most part. And if you can't get a fair outcome with one, I'm sure you'll be able to get it elsewhere. So it's just being a bit more fluid with that sort of thing, and having that knowledge as to this isn't what you have to accept. And I think that's what I say to people with insurance. It's, they might make an offer from the insurance company, but you don't have to accept it, right? So it is frustrating when you get so far into it with one company and then it's a decision you don't want. But it's not necessarily, okay, well, let's not do it at all. It's like, what can we find elsewhere that potentially suits us better? So it's a bit of extra work, but certainly worth it for that one.
I've lost your mic there. Did you just mute yourself? Are you on?
No, I didn't mean to.
Oh, no, there you are. Oh, you're back. Never mind. So let the next thing. So I've had a couple of questions from clients that have either lost jobs or income's dropped and those kind of things, and they're sending questions to me saying, James, can I claim on some of this insurance? Do you want to talk through what the landscape's like in terms of that? So what are the typical insurances people are going to have, and as a result of what's going on is the likelihood of being able to claim on some of that stuff?
Yeah, so I guess the first one would be income protection, and there's a bit of a misconception that redundancy or loss of work, job or work is a claimable event. On its own, it's not. Some of the policies will have a unemployment benefit built in, which will essentially give you a couple of months free premiums with maintaining your cover. But unfortunately, the redundancy alone isn't a reason to claim. I have had a couple of claims regarding stress that this is putting people under. So essentially, income protection is a medical or an accident, anything that requires some time off work due to a medical certificate. So if you think about it that way, if you're unable to work, you have a medical certificate, you extend beyond your waiting period, you are entitled to claim on that one, but the redundancy isn't. The trauma policy, some of them have some intensive care and that sort of stuff that's built in there as well. So if it was you were affected by COVID, you were in intensive care, there's different rulings around it. So how long you need to be on support, that sort of thing too. But they're probably the two that would be claimable whilst you're still alive. Obviously, if you're one of the really unfortunate people that passed away, then that is covered as well. So your life insurance stuff too. So it is covered in the policies. There were some pandemic exclusions that are placed on some of the funds. So I think there's about 4 industry funds that have the pandemic exclusion built in. But again, they've been changed as well through, I think Hester even had one at one point. So for the health industry, which is, but they changed that, which is a great move too because of public perception. So I do like that environment that we're in now, that if it doesn't smell right, they often change it. So
I like the comment you made to say about, if you're off work for something that you've got a medical certificate for, maybe think of it in that regard, and then you're probably likely to go. I'll just look at the kind of the questions and things. Stephen Genoff has got a question here from South Australia. I think we've probably both come across him at different events and things. So he said here, nice to have you guys on. Would love to hear Craig's experience leading up to AV IP leaving the market and how he is positioning IP conversations from April onwards.
Hi, Stephen. I'm assuming that's the agreed value, the income protection.
I think he's looking to agreed value.
Yeah. So just to take it back a step, the agreed value and the indemnity, the agreed value proving what you earn at application stage, the indemnity contracts proving what you earn when you claim. We did have a big rush on this towards the end of March. They have extended the rules on this that allow to sort of mid-April, but the advice document has to be delivered before the end of March. for those people that need the agreed value, it was super important, and I communicated it early. So for all of my existing, I put out a heap of video, heap of emails.
I got one of your emails at one stage too. One of your list alert. Very
well. Again, I might have been from the days I tried the bot. But essentially, it was. I thought it was important to be on the front foot with that, and just make sure that anyone who needed it had an opportunity to at least ask whether or not it worked for them. So I think from now, the important thing to note about indemnity is that a good contract will still give you plenty of flexibility. So a lot of the companies, the indemnity contract will allow you up to 3 years before the time you claim to prove your income. And depending on which company it is, it's not always just the financial year. So they'll pick the best 12 months, any 12 consecutive months.
Can't you?
Yeah. Yep. So I think it's important to have that discussion. And if there is some variability to your income, really understanding the likelihood that a 3-year period, you're not going to be able to prove what you need. So we're having a lot more conversations around that too. And I guess it's just narrowed down the talk around the income protection as well, that this is the only way that we've got. And this is what we need it to look like. And these are the potential risks that would be there if we can't do that.
Takes a bit of the complication out of it all, doesn't it? Like there's just the one. There's not that.
Yeah,
you're going with.
It's going to be interesting to see how it works with agreed value books now. Like those people with existing agreed value policies, what would the insurance companies do with price? So it'll be interesting to sort of see how that landscape moves in the future as well.
Yeah. Good. Okay. And the other comment here is from Graham. He tuned in. He was surprised that we were talking today. Graham, we thought we'd just give it a go. It's Good Friday, yes, but we're both just sitting at home anyway. I don't know if you can hear it, but I think my kids are going nuts in the room behind me.
I can't hear it at all, mate. They're
on the microphone. So I don't know what I'm in for when I step out of this room. Thanks for joining me, Craig. That's kind of all I wanted to cover with you today. If there's anything else you wanted to say, by all means, share it. Otherwise, where can people find you? I know you put out some brilliant videos on LinkedIn, and where else can people find you if they want to reach out?
Yeah, well, I've got a really interesting YouTube channel all around insurance, so that's highly riveting. If you're in isolation, there's a fair bit of stuff on there, so that's been fun just to play around with. I've really enjoyed that. So I know you've taken a lot of these things over there as well, but I've really enjoyed the YouTube platform and getting a hang of that and an understanding as a search tool. It's amazing. So that's been really, really good. If anybody wants to try out the calculator, I can give you the link. We can put it in the comments. I'll do that after the stream, so you can do that. If you're an advisor, I will ask if you're actually genuinely looking. But again, if anyone wants to reach out, LinkedIn's fine. I'm happy to answer any questions there as well.
Brilliant. All right. Thanks for joining me, Craig. Have a great Easter, and we'll chat again soon.
Sounds good. Thanks, pal.
Thanks.
Bye, mate.